We started with our discussion regarding the qualities the organizer should possess. You must remember that we are discussing about work, because it is the work that we have preferred. It is the path of work that we have accepted. And work ultimately means organized work. Only individual work has no meaning. But all work is to be done. It is to be done collectively. Then you can achieve something. And there comes the question of mobilization, organization, generalization. Naturally, who is out on the path of work, he has to acquire the quality of organizing. And that is how we have started discussing the qualities of an organizer. So this thing you keep at the back of your mind when we are discussing everything. How we started the discussion, how it is relevant. So we discussed yesterday that the organizer should have a particular attitude, all-inclusive attitude. He should have conviction. The entire world, if he has a thought having that appeal, then he should not aspire to have something limited. He must aspire that the whole thought would envelop the whole world, because it is so valuable. And you should have the conviction that because it has a universal appeal, there is no reason why everybody should not be influenced by it, and should not translate the thought in action. So you must have that conviction. You must have that attitude that I will convert everybody to my way of thinking. Not only a strategy. In the case of this good college boy, or in the case of Barbara, I yesterday told you, well, that may be considered as expediency. He has to think like this. But in this case, it is not strategy, it is not expediency. It should be an article of faith with him. It should have an article of faith with him. With this conviction he has to work. This should be the attitude. You should not reject anybody. You should not consider anybody to be useless. You should only at the most say that where I don't find, it is my ignorance that I am not able to find suitable work for this man. It is my fault. I am not so expert. I can't assess properly. But then you should remember that nobody is useless in the world. When he said, those also serve who stand and wait, it has a meaning. It is not simply a good saying, just a pious expression. Those also serve who stand and wait. The concession given to people. All right, don't work. You stand and wait till you serve the purpose. Just say it out of consolation. It is not that. They do serve the purpose. Why I should say, a person who opposes, he also serves the purpose. not only stand and wait. Those who stand and wait, they also serve a purpose. Positively they serve a purpose. Even going further than that, I will say that those who stand and oppose tooth and nail, they also serve a purpose. Many things you will find they could succeed and fruitfully succeed only because those things received position, truth and nail position. So, in the larger context, everybody is useful. Everybody is useful. There would not have been Ramayana, there would not have been all this talk about Ramayana, all this, the entire world has got benefited by the story of Ramayana, and there will be no Ravan. You may call him wicked. You may call him wicked, you may call all his tribe wicked. But then you take a larger context, you will find that Ravan also has served a purpose. Duryodhana also has served a purpose. So, such a wonderful world, in the scheme of things, what purpose a particular thing will serve, you cannot see. You may not know it. For example, scorpion, what purpose it serves? Serpent, what purpose it serves? Is mosquitoes, what purpose they serve? You may feel that they are all useless. God has earned very greatly in this by creating these creatures. That is your ignorance. Everything serves purpose. All is very wisely put. So the attitude should be all inclusive. Attitude should be all inclusive. That subject I took yesterday. What should be the attitude of an organizer? Now, I may say that the organizer should have also a particular bent of mind, a systematic bent of mind. It is a must if he is to be an organizer. In fact, the very word organizer, one who organizes. What is organizes? Systematizes. One who organizes, this word that we have used, organize. Organize is systematize. Therefore, it is just like saying that organizer must have organizing capacity. It is redundant. It is so very natural. So, organizer, you must have systematic bent of mind. What the systematic bent of mind is, that we must examine. First of all, before understanding systematic bent of mind, let us try to understand what is the system. What is the system? You will find the entire world is a system. Everything is a system. You cannot think of anything which is not a system. Whether this carpet is a system. You see the carpet, the warp and the woof, the fibers, the various colors, the horizontal fibers and the vertical fibers. It is an organization of fibers, vertical, horizontal, combination of colors, so many things. How that fiber is made, how that fiber is given strength. all the things if you consider, you will find that this system, this carpet also is a demonstration of a system. A tape recorder, a watch, a table, a house, a wall. What is not a system? Everything is a system. Suppose you take for example the example of a young man of ordinary as young men behave. Well, because he has to study, he has to pass examination. So he has to prepare a timetable. You get up at this time, to study at this time, you go to college at this time, return at this time, play at this time, study at this time, meals at this time, whole timetable is there. And suppose after getting up in the morning and doing morning duties, the student begins to study. He is studying, others are doing other works. Mother is doing her cooking in the kitchen and the student is studying. Suppose when the student is studying and his book is in front, he is reading, but his mind is not at all concentrating on the book. The mind is thinking, what is the flavor coming from kitchen? What she is preparing? Is she preparing aloo bonda, is she preparing upma, is she preparing this or that? And the mind is in kitchen. Mind is in kitchen and I am reading the book. Suppose the period is over. From 8:30 to 10:30, reading. So the reading you have seen, the fate of reading you have seen. You have been 8:30 to 10:30. Many times you thought of kitchen, many times thought of going inside. So many times he thought that mother will not like it, and anyhow if I go, my mother will not give me, will ask me to go and study. So fighting with these ideas, he spends 8:30 to 10:30. Then he goes to the kitchen. It's time for meals, because he has to run to the school, college. In the kitchen, he goes, sits for meals. Well, mother is serving, he is eating, but his mind is not eating. He remembers the homework that remained, what to answer to the professor, what explanation give. That not mind is not in it. His mind is wondering what answers to be given and how the professors are to be plucked. What devices I must use. So the mother said, why are you attentive? I am not properly attending to meals. But then he is not attending to meals. When he was in study, then he was attending to the kitchen. When he is in the kitchen, he is attending to the college proceedings. What will happen to me? Professor asked me this question. Then he goes to the college. And in the college, his mind is not in studies. He thinks about the programs in the evening. We have to go to picture, or we have to go to a friend's house, and from there we have to go there, and before we shall come back. All thinking about the evening program. after you go to evening program, after you reach home and then go to your place, say you go to cinema, you go to play, your mind is not in play, your mind is not in cinema. Then you think of what things are remaining, how I left those things unattended. So, to do things, all things except the thing that you are supposed to do. At the time of study, you do everything except study. At the time of eating, do everything except eating. At the time of playing, you think of every other thing in the world except playing. Is this harmony in life? There is no yoking. There is no yoking of the mind and body. This is the most unharmonious life, most discordant mode. No harmony, no consistency, no yoking of the mind and body. So, we may say unsystematic life, unsystematic, shabby life, no system. So, systematic bent of mind means so many things. Entire life is to be systematized. You go to a college hostel and you enter anybody in the room, study room. Ordinary person, you enter anybody's study. There are rooms given to students and you enter anybody's room. What you will find there? Ordinarily what you will find there? Suppose you go there at about 11 o'clock in the morning. The student is not there. But what this fellow must have done from early morning or the previous night to 11 o'clock, you have a map of it in the whole room. The room speaks what this fellow must have done. Because your attention is drawn by the cot. On the cot, the curtain is there, the mosquito curtain. The book is there near the pillow. So from that you can imagine that this fellow in the night when he must have slept, while sleeping he has taken that book to read, only to lull himself to sleep. So that book fell down and that book is still lying there, upside down. So he must have tried to read. So that book is lying. Then you find that there is a cup and saucer. So from there you can imagine that he must have taken tea in the morning. But the cup is there and the saucer is there. That means while he must have taken tea, then he must have been half asleep. So he kicked the cup, it went rolling there, and the saucer is frustrated to find that her companion had gone 10 feet distance. Then you find that there is one pajama. Pajama just coming from down and just deposited. That means this fellow must have changed his clothes. And pajama must have been put down and lungi must have been worn. So the entire thing towel is there, wet towel is there, so that means he must have taken something like bath and put the towel there, deposited there. So you can very well see what this fellow has done till 11 o'clock. That means he has no habit. If the tea is taken, to keep the cup at the proper place. If my sleep is over, now roll the bed. If the book is lying there, keep the book at the proper place. No habit. Just you do the thing and forget about it. Forget about it. So that you have the entire map of your activity of the whole day. This is not systematic bent of mind. No system in ordinary behavior. Leave aside the finding system in every size, finding system in everything, that craving for system. That is quite apart. Ordinary thing also you cannot do well. So, if you want to develop the systematic bent of mind, then the excellence is needed, the harmony is needed, consistency is needed, the hunger for precision is needed, planning is needed. If you think that I should do this in life, then all your energies must be directed towards that path. You want something and you are going the other direction. It is not systematic bent of mind. Sometimes you speak and then you have to say that, well, I spoke but I didn't mean it. What is this? I didn't mean it. Why did you speak? Why didn't you use proper words? Use a word and afterwards repent or say that, that word I used, you see, but I didn't mean it. Why you should do it? You tell a person, your friend, that I will come at this time, and you are nowhere to be seen. Why should you do it? This is also unsystematic. In all your dealings, your systematicness, your systematic bent of mind will be reflected. And it should be reflected at all points. You have systematic bent of mind, that will be said only when you are systematic at all points, not only one or two. You must pervade your life. How you plan your life? How you plan your life? If you have a particular idea, then everything must be directed towards that idea. Directed towards that idea. What is the use of blaming others? I get letters from people. They say, well, I wanted to do this, I wanted to join Vivekananda Kendra as a life worker. I very much wanted it, I aspired for it. But then this happened, that happened, my father complained, my mother complained, this, that. All cock and bull stories. When you want a particular thing, why can't you properly plan your life? You must know what you want and do a thing consistent to what you want. Nobody will want to go to Rameshwar and take a train going to Delhi. But you will find that most of the cases this happens. Somebody wanted to do something and He even doesn't care to take proper subjects in college. If suppose I have desire to do particular thing, then do that thing well, what subjects I should learn, what subject I should master. Those subjects I must read. But I want something, I want to be something, and I am reading something which has no relevance. You need to go to the library. Well, you must know what you want. Then pick up a book. If really you mean business, so the whole life, it must be reflected, this systematic bent of mind must be reflected in whole life, in your planning. I give you a personal example. I passed by matriculation. Then my brother wanted me to be an engineer. And one day he gave me a lecture, got an opportunity. Some friends had come, some guests had come. So he said that, see, nowadays, what is the use? Many MAs and BAs are there. If at all you have to live comfortably, then you must do engineering. And do your own business. Why is going after services? If at all service also is to be done, it should be in engineering. Now there is no scope or any other thing. There is very much crowd everywhere. So, and I am also asking my brother, that is myself, that he should take engineering. I was hearing. I told that I don't want to be here. He said, why? I said, I don't know. I have no aptitude for it. He said, how do you say you have no aptitude for it? Because you do so many things, because we had a workshop at our house. So I used to do some things because workshop being there, always the people do not, the servants are not going to work, sometimes we have also to work. So he said, I have seen you working, and you did that work well, you did that armature winding well, you repaired that machine well. So how can I say that you don't have aptitude for it? I didn't say anything at that time, but I only expressed that I am not going for it. So, what will do? I said I will go in for arts. I will go in for arts, I will take Sanskrit, I will take literature, I will take history, I will take politics, I will take economics, if possible. These are the subjects of my preference, but I will not go for it. He said that, well, we are running a workshop, and we are not that way college educated, we learn ourselves. If suppose from our family you get a BE degree, you become an engineer, then we are not in the qualification, we are not in a degree with us, but still we are running a good show. If you come, naturally this shop will prosper. So you don't be under any illusion. You take to any. So he first tried that I should go to Banaras for electrical engineering. So when that date expired, he was very angry. Then he said, all right, now the chance has gone, now you at Nagpur there is engineering school, the diploma is there. You appear for examination, you easily pass, and you go and join the engineering school. So when he she found that I was not very much enthusiastic about it. She brought books from the market, put on my table. That told her there are books. You see that only just one reading you do and you will be able to pass it. There is a preliminary examination to be passed to qualify yourself for admission. You kept the books there. So there was a study room which I used to clean myself. Never a servant was allowed to clean my room. So after 7-8 days he came to my room. I was not there. He came to that room, he found that everything is clean. But the books came there. The table, the books are full of dust. And it is there and I am not touching it. So he was very angry. He went downstairs and said, see, he has not even touched the books. I have brought the books and he is not even taking care to even clean the books and to go through them, whether they are easy or difficult. He is so adamant. Then I told him, when that date was nearing, then we had a conversation. Of course, generally with elders we don't go into argument. But that day, so I was just matriculate and it was the height of impertinence to argue with elders. But then I was forced to the wall and I had to tell him, even at that small age, that I am not going for engineering because I am not going to do any profession. I am not going to earn money. I am not going to do any vocation, any profession, any service. So therefore, if it is earning business, as you have yourself told, I am not interested in it. Then he said, what are you going to do then? I said, you know what I am going to do. Well, the country is slave, so in my own way, whatever I can do to see that our country becomes independent. Those efforts I will also join. I may starve to death, I may not live a very happy life according to your standard, but that is the way I am going to live my life. Then he said, you are absolutely without any common sense, you do not know the ways of the world. We also thought like that in our young age, but then that is not practical. Everybody in his impressionable age thinks like that, but nobody ever follows that path. So that will happen to you also, but you will repent. So therefore you hear my advice. I said, well, if that is going to happen to me also, but it has happened to many people, it will happen to me. But I feel that I am not cut for this. I will do this. What subjects you should take? If your plan is decided, it may be wrong, it may be silly, it may be your pertinence, impertinence, it may be your arrogance. But if you have a plan, right or wrong, you follow that plan. And have the courage to face difficulty and face the results. If you feel that I should do this, do it. And if it is a difficult task and therefore the difficulties come, face them. Facing the difficulty which you are invited, where is the harm in not facing them? At least you will have the satisfaction that I am leading a consistent life. I am true to my conscience. My conscience tells me to do this, I am not going that way, because anybody has said it. Somebody has said it, that you do this, and therefore I have done it. Why? I want to go this way. I will not be traitor to my own conscience. I will not be inconsistent to my own conscience. At least there will not be any inconsistency in my mind and my action. It will not be like that. So systematic bent of mind doesn't mean only that you can tie your clothes well, or you can tie your hold all well, or you can properly arrange things, or you can well furnish your office, or have proper organize your files. It's not simply that. In a broader sense, your whole life must be harmonious life. You plan, you follow it. You have an ideal, you follow that ideal. Then all your subjects, what you read, when you enter a library, you are not in confusion. Thousands of books might be there. What I have to read, what books I should lay my hands upon, it is very clear to me. You never there will be any confusion in your life. You go to a library, you go to a city, you go anywhere, hundreds of things are there, hundreds of attractions are there, you will go straight to the thing which you want, rejecting all the things. There should be planning in life, there should be consistency in life, there should be harmony in life. And this systematic bent of mind should be reflected uniformly in all actions, small and big. So this is what exactly is meant by systematic bent of mind. We shall take other